McGrath, welcome and thank you so much for joining me for a couple of questions today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So just to introduce you to everyone, you are competing in the World Rowing Indoor Championships in 3 events. You're competing in the mixed team test. You're also competing in the open women's 500 meter and in the women's 40 to 49 2K category. So congratulations for qualifying in 3 events. That's phenomenal.
Thank you. I'm pretty stoked. It's pretty exciting to be able to do this.
Cool. Well, I hope we're not taking up too much of your time by asking you a couple of questions. My first question for you is, how did you find the indoor rowing machine and what really made you fall in love with it?
That is a great question. So in 2016, I was going to a fitness center. My it was an all women's fitness center. I had been on a weight loss journey and I was looking for more cardio to incorporate. And they had started doing indoor rowing classes. And I kind of, if you call this falling in love with the rowing machine, we definitely had a turbulent dating period where I think I did it maybe twice a month. It was something you kind of like loved and hated. So that was throughout 2016. In December, I had one of my trainers say, your numbers on this thing are pretty good. We should put them in this website called Concept 2 and see how you rank. And that's when I discovered that the Concept 2 has all kinds of data you can pull out. And I'm a data analyst by trade. So that was an immediate point in which I fell in love with the machine. And the next thing was I put my numbers in and I was world ranked 15 in my age category. And for somebody who just started it, that was super exciting and very motivating to actually learn how to use this machine and how to actually try to row. So I think that's what really got me hooked. And then I actually kind of started to say, well, I've been rowing just for fun. Let's go actually try to find some people who know how to row on the water, which is not, I live in essentially a desert. So I had to go to a place somewhere where they had a body of water nearby, and I'd never been on water, but I got to learn from some wonderful coaches who rowed on the water, bring that knowledge back, and then start looking into competitions. And it was kind of an interesting experience because I learned to row. For my first year, we only used watts. I had no idea what this pace thing was. So I got to my first indoor rowing competition that I just found online, and I basically rowed a 2K blind because I had no idea what this pace thing was on my machine. And that's all the stuff on. I'm like, what do I do? I even got there and I had no idea what, they're I asked them where do I go? What do I do? And oh, your coach will tell you. And I'm like, oh, I don't have a coach. I'm just here. Somebody help me. It was a wonderful experience. So I got to meet some super awesome people and definitely got hooked at that point, and then found the online rowing community and just went on from there.
That's great. And I want to talk a little bit about your weight loss journey because you mentioned that that's one of the things that got you introduced to indoor rowing. I heard that you lost over 200 pounds, among other things, doing indoor rowing. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with the rowing machine while you were going through this weight loss journey?
Absolutely. So my weight loss journey actually started definitely well before rowing. I had a bariatric surgery, actually. I've had a vertical sleeve gastrectomy in 2014, and I had lost 230 pounds by the time I found rowing. Now, the one thing that people don't realize is that anytime you have a weight loss journey or if you do a surgery, it's not a once and done, you're good forever. It's the beginning of a journey, and you have ups and you have downs. And I definitely am always having to find new ways to keep myself engaged in cardio and fitness, and finding something to fall in love with, and rowing was a big part of that. One of the things that has happened through my kind of rowing, career, my rowing experience journey, was I actually had, during that time, I had a torn ACL. I ended up having an injury in 2017, really, but 2018, I had a surgery. So I did an ACL reconstruction, a meniscus repair, and it took me out of fitness. I mean, I still was working out, but it put it was a setback. I couldn't row very well. I was rowing one-legged, so I did row throughout the whole thing. I strapped a roller skate to my heel and rowed with one leg, but I definitely had put back on some weight. So I think I ended up gaining about 80 pounds. So part of that journey of getting back to a healthier weight, I definitely incorporated a lot of rowing, and it's also the motivation of putting my scores out there, joining competitions, having wonderful friends online, internationally, and here in the United States, and even in my local gym, where we all motivate each other, It's exciting, and it's kind of cool because I thought I would never quite get back to where I was before my injury, and I have not only gone there, but I've exceeded it. So I'm definitely performing better than I even did back when I started, when I felt was at my peak fitness then. I think I'm even better now. So that's kind of a really exciting journey, and indoor rowing was a huge part of that.
Well, congratulations. That's an incredible accomplishment in and of itself. And I think a lot of people would really admire you for having gone through that. So thank you for sharing that story. One of the interesting aspects of your journey as an indoor rower is that you started off with indoor rowing as more of a health and fitness approach. And now you're a true bona fide international competitor. And you made that progression quite quickly. You only started rowing in about 2016. And by 2017, you were racing internationally at the 2017 World Games. Can you share a little bit of why you think you shot up so quickly and made that progression so quickly to the international stage?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of been an interesting journey where I became competitive kind of early on. I had no idea that I was any good at this rowing thing until I started putting my numbers out there. And that was a huge motivation. And so I had a wonderful support system at home cheering me on. I think that one of the true keys to being successful in any sort of fitness endeavor is finding some aspects of it that you love, people you love to work out with, something that motivates you to do it every day. Because for me, if it was just sitting on the erg every day doing training sessions, I don't know that I would be doing that. It's a wonderful machine, but it's definitely painful at times and hard to do on your own. And I have huge amounts of respect for people who are out there in their home gyms, knocking out these amazing sessions every day. I definitely don't have enough motivation for that, but I have a wonderful support system. And then for me, I had that setback, and then turning it back around, I really had thought at that point that I would never be competitive again. I had a year off essentially of any sort of intense rowing. So I thought I was essentially done. And actually the World Urban Games, when that came around and I threw it out of qualify, a attempt piece for that. And then I got in, that was like kind of a spark that, hey, maybe I'm not done. Maybe I can do some more competitive rowing. And a big part of that was, again, having that competition, having wonderful friends who, every time I posted it, improvement, they cheered me on. The fitness family, I go to a place called Warrior Fitness now, and I have an incredible group of people there who all row with me, who, I see every day. I look forward to really, doing intense workouts 7 days a week, and people who are there with me every step of the way. And then, like I said, the online community, the online competitions, all these different virtual opportunities we've had have really driven me to, embrace the sport and embrace competition. And I think a lot of times, especially when you have such a positive, wonderful competition, it's kind of a win-win situation. So you might win the competition, but yay, you won. Or if you don't win the competition, usually it's one of your friends who've won the competition. And so, yeah, you're cheering for somebody that you really admire and respect and have been friends with for, a long time. So that's a wonderful part. Like, I don't like the competitions where you feel bad about losing. I actually never have felt bad. Like, I love it when Jordan beats me in competitions because I know that, she's done really well and I'm super excited for her. Or there's a dozen other names that I see on the leaderboards almost every time. And I'm always cheering for them.
You mentioned Jordan Falcone, a fellow American competitor, and I want to talk about her a little bit because the two of you seem to have a friendship that's really blossomed through indoor rowing and indoor rowing training and competing. Can you talk about how the two of you met and how the sport brought you together?
So yes, when I first got interested in rowing and I first started looking at leaderboards, I was like December of 2016 into January of 2017. Jordan had just competed at the Crash Bees at the World Indoor Competition, and I remember seeing this the posting on there, and they interviewed her, and I was just in awe of her time. At the time, it was almost a 7-minute flat 2K, and I had just done a competition myself, and I had a 7:13, and I was they interviewed her, and she was talking about she rows 10,000 to 13,000 meters per day, or 15,000 meters per day, and I was just incredible. Like, that's what I row in a week. How does she do that a day? I think she had just gotten off of a challenge, so she was doing extra rowing at the time. And it's funny because I just had, Facebook pops up those memories on this day, whatever. And just the other day, I had a memory pop up that was me posting the results of that race and, basically gushing over how awesome this Jordan Falcone girl was that I posted to my own rowing group that I'm sure she never even knows. I should forward it to her one of these days. And then after that, just a progression of, seeing we all follow each other on the leaderboards. We kind of keep an eye out on who's new in rowing. And so we've kind of interacted, crossed paths a couple times. And then I think what really kind of was a great point in kind of having a friendship was the World Urban Games. We both got to go to the World Urban Games, and it was an amazing experience. And when I got there, this time I was traveling alone. So I'm in a foreign country. I don't do a lot of traveling myself. Don't know anybody other than I know people from online. And Jordan was there with her husband, Matt. And so they kind of said, yeah, we're going to go look at the town. But why don't you come along and tag along. So it was awesome to have a travel buddy and got to, spend time with Jordan and her husband. And they were just wonderful people, warm, caring people, awesome competitors. Well, Jordan's awesome competitor. I think she gets Matt into doing some rowing too, but I don't think he competes. And it was just a wonderful experience, and it's good to be able to meet such amazing people from all over the place. And it's kind of neat because Jordan was one of the first persons I ever saw in competitive rowing and was in awe of. So very excited to have her as a friend now.
You mentioned the World Urban Games, and I want to talk a little bit more about that because you were one of only 8 female competitors that was invited to race in the 2019 World Urban Games. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and also talk a little bit about the non-traditional competition format that you saw there?
The World Urban Games was something I definitely didn't expect to be able to go to. I threw it out of time. I was not in the top qualifiers. And then I was offered a wild card position. I actually thought about rewriting my piece, and I'm like, no, I'm really busy right now. I should leave this opportunity for somebody else. And then when I was offered a wild card, it was like, okay, that's a sign. I need to just go. And I am so grateful I did. It was such an incredible experience. The people you got to meet, the format was just awesome. So most of the time, indoor rowing is, a 500 meter or a 2K. It's a one event done. Your goal is to get to the finish line as fast as you can. And it doesn't really necessarily reflect all the different elements of training that go into that. Some of the stroke rate training, some of the different goals, some of the sprinting sessions. And I think that when we had the World Urban Games, the format, first off, was fun because we didn't know what the race was going to be. So nobody could really prepare for it other than be well-rounded going in. And then it gave an opportunity for those who've had different types of training to kind of shine in different ways. So the one thing that I was really strong at was we did a one pole max. And that was one thing I got like third on because that's like my one strong point. Put me on one of the longer pieces and I died pretty quick. But so I think everybody kind of had their own niche kind of thing that they got to shine on. And like we had a really slow stroke rate capped 14 strokes per minute, 6,000 meter row, which was awful. And it was one of those things that was it's really awful. I love to threaten people with that when I'm doing rowing classes. Like, okay, guys, we're 14 strokes per minute. But what was fun about that is it was really just a mental game. It was a counting 4 counts before your next pull. And so some of the people who are definitely stronger rowers, it was hard for them to, calm their mind down, settle down, and hit those targets. And it was just a very different approach to competition. So I think there's just so much different fun elements of it. I love the tournament style that we had. I've actually had the opportunity to do that once before, so it was neat to do that again. In fact, both times that I've ever been in a tournament where you're switching on the rower, I've had Pavel on my team, and it was both times it was kind of a scary experience because he's such an intense guy. I remember my first time I was with him and I was jumped on the road doing my 500 meters. And he goes, go faster. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. I'm going to die doing this row. But he's wonderful, wonderful guy. But he's super intense. So when I was at the World Urban Games and they announced the teams, and I was on Pavel's team again, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be hard. But it was an awesome team. It's neat because you bond with your teammates, and because now it's not just you against everybody. It's now you and your 3 teammates against the other. I think we had, what would that be, 4 teams, 3 other teams. So it was a lot of fun, and the venue was amazing, and the people were amazing. So I really hope to see more competitions like that again. It was pretty awesome experience.
My last question for you is about the indoor rowing community, because you said that that's one of the things that really motivated you when you were getting started and even to this day. Obviously, with COVID-19, people are not able to access their fitness communities quite as easily if they're training from home. What advice do you have for beginners who are getting into indoor rowing and maybe don't have access to those communities that they normally would have access to?
I think one of the most important aspects for somebody completely new to indoor rowing, who's never like been experienced, like not a water rower coming over or a CrossFitter, is finding something about it that you love. I wouldn't even, I think that the expected advice is learn your form, don't, start getting drills and who knows what. But I think honestly, the biggest thing is finding something that you love and will continue to do. That consistency and that desire to keep coming back to it is what's going to make you eventually become a better indoor rower. And so that might be that you might fall in love with numbers, having challenges. It might be that you find an online community. There are some group fitness classes that are virtual now that use leaderboards with rowing, kind of like the Peloton for rowers. There's a couple of them. There's Club Row. There's a few other ones, and those have already started to develop into a community. And so once you find something that keeps you looking forward to coming back, then learning technique and doing drills and putting in the work becomes so much easier, because then now you have a baseline to like compare against as you improve. And that gives you, you're excited to, hey, my numbers are getting better. Hey, I'm, keeping up with my friends. And so I think that finding something that you love about it is one of just the key aspects of any sort of success in fitness in general, but definitely in indoor rowing.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Morgan. I won't take up any more of your time because I know you probably have a training session to get to, but we really look forward to watching you race 3 times in this event, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to the race next week.